Uh, can you put the music, please?
Yeah.
You are the light. You are the light of the world. Jesus, and the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 5, verses 14. When Christ told his disciples that they were the light of the world, he conferred a tremendous responsibility on them. The mission of the light is to illuminate roads, scatter darkness, and save lives. A mission that is invariable, carried out at the cost of the few that feeds it. The candle flames burns, the liquid fire walks, and of the weak. The electricity light consumes power from the substation. The light, whether from the sun or from the candelabra, is always a message of security, discernment, comfort, and joy for those who upon whom they shine. Therefore, if we are to grasp Christ's lesson and are interested in following him, then we must be willing to donate our energies to the ongoing activity of the God of the good, so that the good news will shine on the pathway of redemption for all. Christians that do not have spirit of selfishness are like that torch in the sanctuary of the gospel. Let us seek the Lord, offering the best of ourselves to others. Let us follow him, helping others indiscriminately. Let us get entangled in conflict, and let us not get entangled in conflicts or pointless inquiries. You are the light of the world. Our Master has exhorted us, and the light does not argue but clarifies, aids, helps, and illuminates. Can you turn off the light, please? I'd like to invite you all to connect your souls with our guides who are here today, encouraging us to be the light of the world, who are also inviting us for self-love, to find the truth, peace of mind. Today in this special meeting and this special prayer, we pray for all our spiritual friends, guardian angels, to all the messengers of the Christ, to help a special friend of us. Douglas McIntosh has passed away yesterday, leaving lots of love behind in this existential life that he had, leaving us in our souls the connection of love. May this brother be finding peace, be finding love. May his family, especially Katya, who are still with us, find comfort with the good remembrances, the good memories of his life. May this group, the Fraternal Spiritist Society of Calgary, always remind Doug as the one who helped to bring Spiritism to Calgary, to enlighten the very first meetings that we had, to spread the consoling Christ in the heart of the city. May our friend be with us today and always. We pray for Jesus to welcome him in the spiritual world and always use us as tools to give him strength, energies that he needs in this new phase of his existence. We are all immortal souls, immortal spirits. And we celebrate our dear Doug. Be welcome in the spiritual world and be with us, dear friend. His house is also yours. Let us have a wonderful meeting, full of joy, full of happiness, full of love. So be it. Boy.
Oh, I don't know. Are we going to connect there?
Here. It's already connected here. Which one? Esse daqui?
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Have a good meeting.
Thank you. Good luck to you with the kids. Okay, so good morning officially. And sorry, I'm a bit emotional. Doug was part of our first group with FSS in English. But even before that, we had another study group, and he was with us, and Natalia and Andresa were part of that group as well. And he was a very, very dear friend. I was there yesterday for a few hours with him and his family, and all I could hear from his daughters and his son were stories of what an amazing father he is still, and how he made all of his children feel special. So for hours, in that very intense and sad situation, hearing his kids talk about how much they love him and the example that he was living for them as a father was very inspiring. So may Jesus have him now, and hopefully he's recovering and might be able to be here assisting us soon. And he is one of the most patient people I've ever met in my life. So he's definitely a goal to achieve, because he was amazingly patient. So today, we actually talked about this about 6 months ago. But again, from the feeling that I had yesterday going through this experience, the only thing I could think of was faith, and how powerful it is when we have it, and how that faith can influence our lives, mainly at moments so hard as the passing of a loved one. When we don't have faith, we open ourselves to feelings that can lead us to more and more and more deeper of a hole, let's say. And we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about what lack of faith will lead us to, and what faith can bring us in contrast. Okay, so let's start to understand what lack of faith will bring us. What do you think? Someone who doesn't have faith. So in order to understand how faith can be an influence in our lives, first we need to reflect and understand the effects of lack of faith. So what do you think lack of faith would bring us?
Depression.
Depression.
Lack of hope.
Lack of hope. There's a beautiful text that says that faith is hope's daughter.
Injustice feelings.
Yes, when we feel that life or God or whoever is unfair to us. Yes, injustice feeling. What else?
Loneliness.
Loneliness. Come on, we have a full room. Only Priscilla is helping.
Lack of purpose.
Awesome. Lack of purpose. Exactly. What else? You're all of ideas. The biggest feeling or negative feeling that lack of faith brings us, that will lead to all of those things you mentioned is doubt. 2 weeks ago, we talked about the meaning of faith. So does anybody remember what's the meaning of faith? Basically, if you had to replace faith with one other word, what would it be?
Believe.
Believe. So if you don't have faith, you don't believe. When you don't believe, you doubt, you question everything, everybody, right? So that's what lack of faith will bring us mostly, doubt. And doubt will lead to all of those other feelings we mentioned before. So what are some possible results of these feelings of doubt, hopelessness, lack of purpose? Priscilla mentioned one. The first thing you said is one of the results.
Depression.
Exactly. Depression, because it's very connected to the lack of purpose. Who am I? What am I doing here? What's the purpose of all of this? What's the point of all of this? Why do I have to feel pain? Why do I have to go through this? It doesn't make sense. When you don't have faith, none of this earth makes sense, right? And something else that is also connected to depression and all these negative feelings, which is fear. Fear syndrome or fear syndromes, such as anxiety, panic attacks, agoraphobia, or any kind of phobia for that matter. Does anybody know what is agoraphobia? No?
Out of your home.
Yes. And agoraphobia and panic attacks are they walk hand in hand, because you don't want to go out, you're afraid of open spaces, you're afraid of people, you don't trust anybody, everybody's out to get you. So that's what doubt brings us. And we are not talking about the doubt of, do I eat Chinese or Italian? Do I turn left or right? Do I buy carrot or chocolate cake? That's not the kind of doubt we're talking about. We're talking about existential doubt. We're talking about deep doubt, like questioning ourselves, our existence, our purpose, our meaning, right?
Ana Carrete está assistindo e
Yes.
fazendo comentários, né? Ela
Yeah.
colocou lack of consolation, lack of security, lack of peace.
Thank you, Anna. Yes, you're right. All of those. Okay, now fear can be, we can like split fear into basic categories. And one of them would be objective fear and one would be imaginary. An objective fear, which is absolutely normal, because like from this, don't think that we should be fearless. No, that's not what I mean. The objective fears are normal and healthy. Fear of dying, fear of having an accident, fear of going out when it's minus 30 in Calgary and I'm gonna freeze my ears and they're gonna fall off. Those are objective fears, and they are healthy because they are connected to our instinct of survival, right? So those objective fears are important, and they are connected to self-preservation. We need them, let's leave them there. Because when we don't have them, we end up jumping from helicopters on the top of a mountain to ski down, and we don't even care if we're gonna die or not. That is unhealthy, okay? So objective fears, fear of like concrete things that threaten our existence is important, okay? So that fear we're good with. But then the other category is imaginary fear. It's a fear with no psychological basis. right? Except that we don't know the divine laws. So fear of what's my purpose here? Fear of being a horrible mother, so I don't want to have kids. Fear of the unknown. Not fear of concrete things that threaten my existence, but fear of existential things that could actually help me evolve and advance, right? So now, to exemplify, we're gonna see a koan. A koan is, according to the dictionary, I had to check the dictionary, it's a narrative, a dialogue, a question, or a statement that contain aspects that defy reason, that seem like they don't make sense, but the idea is to provide illumination. Like a fable where animals speak. In real life, that kind of doesn't make sense. But there's always a moral at the end, okay? So a koan is like this, where objects create life, but it's just to give an example, okay? It has a moral at the end. And this koan is in this book. We don't have Canadians here, do we? No? So, a energia dos chakras e o poder terapêutico da fé, da meditação e da oração. By Alírio de Cerqueira Filho. So, this material was taken mostly from this Gospel According to Spiritism, Medium's book. So, this koan is here in this book, in the chapter that talks about faith. So, we're going to read it out. I'm going to read it out loud. So, once there was a small leaf that was feeling out of place. If anybody doesn't understand the vocabulary, please ask me, okay? It believed that its place was neither on the twig, does everybody know twig, galho, nor on the branch, or even on the trunk where it was. Trunk é o... Tronco, obrigado, Dara. How can I help with vocabulary if I can't remember Portuguese? So it believed that its place was neither on the twig, nor on the branch, or even on the trunk where it was. And it decided to leave, detaching itself from the big tree. It fell on the ground, and the wind that takes everything took it far away from its origin. It faced the gravel, you know gravel, cascalho, and ended up falling in the waters of a creek. In this stream, it was taken aimlessly, not knowing for sure where it was going, tripping on rocks, trunks, and following its destiny completely disoriented. We're going to go back to this and discuss after. Then came the rain. The burning sun came as well, and the inclement weather made the little leaf very tired and withered. Ressecada. It would ask to get out of the stream. It was asking and begging when a farmer who was passing by the river felt compassion for the little leaf. Seeing it at the mercy of the stream, he took it and put it with the other leaves around the trunk of a beautiful tree to fertilize it. At this moment, it felt connected to the original plan again, from which it had withdrawn itself. Tinha se retirado. Only some time later, the nutrients of this little leaf traveled to a new trunk in a new branch and became a leaf again. But instead of trying to get away again, it preferred to stay and accompany the fruit that would arrive in the spring. Yes? Did everybody understand the story? We're going to go back. Okay. So once there was a small leaf that was feeling out of place. So what was the problem with the leaf?
It didn't feel that belong, don't.
Yes. Do we know anybody or maybe we have felt at some point in life. I think everybody during their teenagers at some point feel we don't belong. So the leaf was feeling out of place. Like, what am I doing here? This is not where I belong. I don't think this is right. Somebody made a mistake. It believed that its place was neither on the twig, nor on the branch, or even on the trunk where it was. So here, we can think of maybe if we, again, transfer the leaf to a person, I don't belong in this family. I don't belong in this country. Ooh, surprise, surprise, we all left ours. I don't belong in this society. I don't belong in this job. I don't belong in this school. I don't belong in the sex that I was born with. I don't belong in the religious beliefs of my parents. There are so many places, situations, and things where we may feel that we don't belong, where we have the doubt, where we question, where we don't believe, right? And the leaf decided to leave, detaching itself from the big tree. It fell on the ground, and the wind that takes everything took it far away from its origin. Like we are, what, 10,000 kilometers? It faced the gravel and ended up falling in the waters of a creek. A creek is like a small river, like Fish Creek. In this stream, it was taken aimlessly, with no objective. Deixa a vida me levar, a vida leva eu. Not knowing for sure where it was going, tripping on rocks, trunks, following its destiny, completely disoriented. Can we make the connection with people here, ourselves or someone else? Then came the rain. The burning sun came as well. And the inclement weather made the little leaf very tired and withered. What can we connect? The rain, burning sun, inclement weather. Yes. Problems, difficulties we face in our lives, hard situations, a difficult family member, a difficult job, difficult boss, loss of a loved one, right? So this can all be the rain, the burning sun, the inclement weather. Do those make us tired? It would ask to get out of the stream. And here maybe I need to explain a little grammar. When it says it would ask, it would be the equivalent to pretérito imperfeito in Portuguese. Falava, pedia, which gives the idea of something repeated. Okay, so it asked and asked and asked again and again and again. It was asking and begging when a farmer who was passing by the river felt compassion for the little leaf. And here we can see the idea that a koan is something that has something that makes sense. A person felt compassion for a leaf because the person heard the leaf asking to leave the stream. That part doesn't make sense, but we're going to talk about this farmer again. Seeing the leaf at the mercy of the stream, he took it and put it with the other leaves around the trunk of a beautiful tree to fertilize it. Okay? At this moment, it felt connected to the original plan again. So at this point, is it feeling like it doesn't belong?
No.
Not anymore. Only some time later, the nutrients of this little leaf traveled to a new trunk in a new branch and became a leaf again. What connection can we make here?
Reborn.
Reincarnation, right? But instead of trying to get away again, it preferred to stay and accompany the fruit that would arrive in the spring. So the connection we can make here is us learning a lesson for our next incarnation. Correct? Yes? Everybody with me? Okay. So I'm going to ask you a it sounds like a stupid question, but the answer will help us continue our reflections. Now, we know the problem with the leaf is that it felt like it didn't belong. Now, why did it detach itself from the tree? Why do you think the leaf decided to leave?
Look for a place where it belongs.
Yes, I'm looking for a simpler and more basic answer than that, Priscilla. When we ask a kid, a teenager, sorry, I don't mean to pick on you, Jimmy. But when you ask a teenager, why did you do something? I don't know in Brazil, but here in Canada, I hear the same answer from my son over and over again.
Because I what?
Because I can. Why did you hit your sister? Because I can. Why didn't you hand in your homework? Because I can. And that's exactly why the leaf decided to leave. Because it can. Our free will never be taken away from us. We always have choices. Always. I like rock and roll, so there's a Rush song that says, if you choose not to decide, you still have made a choice. What, you don't like Rush?
Very philosophical.
Oh, very, yeah. It is, but it's the absolute truth. Our free will never be taken away from us. If we choose not to decide, we still have made a choice. Thank you, Ged Lee. Okay, so, and we know what happened. It went through, like it just went with the stream, wherever the stream took it, and it went through problems and stuff. Now, at what point did the leaf realize it had made a mistake?
After passing through lots of experience, all the suffering and seeing everything and realize that, that was not the way.
Does that sound familiar to us?
Mm-hmm. For sure.
At what point do we realize we've made a mistake?
When we start suffering.
Yes, when pain comes, right? When pain comes, we're like, uh-oh. So right after the koan in the book, Alirio makes this reflection. He says, the koan refers to a movement that is common to many of us, wanting to detach ourselves from the divine love when we give way to pride and rebellion. So we go back, I know not everybody was here 2 weeks ago, but we go back to what we spoke about 2 weeks ago. Why do we doubt? Because we don't believe. We don't believe in what? Yes. We don't believe in ourselves, in life, and in divine love, divine laws, everything that is divine. We don't believe in our connection with God. And when we don't believe in that connection, when we don't believe we are God's creation, we are loved by Him, and we have a purpose here, when we don't feel like we are citizens of this universe, that we have a part to play, we want to detach ourselves. Because we don't belong. If I don't have faith, if I don't have that belief that I am supposed to be where I am, that I am supposed to be on the twig or the branch or the trunk, that for us, even though we left Brazil, if we don't believe and understand that we have a part to play right here where we are, doubt is going to eat us. just like it did with the leaf. And that's when we, as people, start looking for answers outside, looking for experiences that will fulfill us. But what we need is not out. What we need is in. Because the act of going to a church, to a mosque, to, I don't know, a beautiful garden for those who are Buddhists, that the action of doing or going is not going to bring me faith. The seed of faith is already in here, but I need to water, to nurture, and to help it grow. Right? However, when we are disconnected, we start disconnected from God's love. We start to feel abandoned. We weather several storms of fear and insecurity until we connect to the Father through prayer, humbling our pride, and taming é amansar, acalmar, and taming our rebellion, reconnecting ourselves with God. When we reestablish that connection, we feel like the leaf. In the second part, we feel like we belong. We're like, I know what I'm doing here now. I know what's my purpose. I know I belong. I know I'm here to learn and improve and get better, because in time, when I am evolved enough, I will be helping the other little leaves find their place. We all have our purpose, right? So, are we abandoned? No. Sometimes we feel like we are, but we aren't. So, we don't always know that we're not abandoned. So sometimes we have that feeling that we are. But in order not to feel abandoned, what we need is reconnecting ourselves with God. And that's what the word religion means, right? Religion comes from the Latin religare. It's to reconnect with God. So whatever any religion or however they plan to do that reconnection, it's particular to whatever religion. But when we criticize religions, we need to be careful. We need to understand that the word religion simply means a connection with God. Reconnect with God. So when we criticize Muslims, Catholics, Buddhists, Hinduists, we need to be very careful about that. When we criticize their religion, the idea of religion is just to reconnect with God. What people do in their religions, and even spiritists actually. So what people do is their responsibility, not their religion's responsibility. So criticizing a person is very different from criticizing that person's religion, right? The idea of religion is reconnect with God. What people do is their own responsibility. Okay, so even though we sometimes, like the little leaf, feel like we don't belong and we disconnect from God, and this disconnection can be from becoming an atheist to being a spiritist who goes to the spiritist center, has thousands of hours of volunteering, but still doesn't know how to forgive, still is rude at home, is the nicest person at the spiritist center, but when they get home, they are devils, right? So it's not just atheists that don't have a connection with God. Anybody, any of us who is not trying to fulfill the divine laws have this disconnection at some degrees. And sometimes we go like pendulums, like we go far away and then we come back. All of this in our level of evolution is absolutely normal because we are here to learn. It's not expected that we are perfect right here, right now. That's not the idea. The idea is that we are here to learn. And if we are humble enough to admit that, we will learn a whole lot faster. Right? So, and this is from the book Energia dos Chakras, Poder Terapêutico da Fé, Meditação e Oração, by Alírio de Cerqueira Filho. So, now we go back to the basics. And we go back to the Gospel according to Spiritism. In chapter 5, item 19, nobody less than Saint Augustine says about evil and its remedy. What remedy can be prescribed for those attacked by cruel obsessions and mortifying evils? There is but one infallible way, through faith, which is the appeal to heaven. If at the moment of highest poignancy in your suffering, you intone hymns to the Lord, then the angel at your bedside will show you the sign of salvation and the place which you will one day occupy. Okay, so what do you think intone hymns to the Lord means? Pray. One of our simplest and most powerful tools to reconnect with God, regardless of religion, is prayer. Sincere prayer from our hearts, like Priscilla said. And then the angel at your bedside will show you a sign of salvation. Who could it be an angel at our bedside? Who's with us since the day we're conceived? Not we're born, we're conceived. Our mentor, spiritual guide, guardian angel, however you want to call it. Yes. So when we pray sincerely from our hearts, that connection we make with God, we're going to get help from his representative who is closest to us. It can be our guardian angel, but it can also be other spirits who help our family or who help support us. Emmanuel wasn't Chico Xavier's guardian angel. He was one of the mentors, but Chico still had a guardian angel. So sometimes we have more than one looking after us. So we have the resources. We need to use them. And then St. Augustine continues. Faith is the only sure remedy for suffering. There's nothing to explain about this. It's plain and simple. Faith is the only sure remedy for suffering. It will always show the infinite horizon before which the few cloudy days of the present will vanish. What are the few cloudy days of the present?
The problems.
Yes, the problems of this particular existence. So we're just talking about this existence right now. Therefore, do not ask what is the remedy for ulcer or sore, temptation or trial. Remind yourselves that those who believe are strengthened through the remedy of faith, and those who doubt of its sufficiency, be it even for an instant, will be immediately punished, because they will quickly feel the pungent anguishes of affliction. This sounds pretty strong, right? It says, those who doubt, be it even for an instant, will be immediately punished. Does God punish us? So why will we immediately be punished?
We feel the consequences of our own actions.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So again, let's think about language. This is like 160 years ago. Language was very different to start with. And we can even think of the word punishment when we think about the pain we feel, but it doesn't come from God punishing us from our mistakes, like Natalia said. It's simply the consequences of our mistakes. We will be punished because of our own actions. We plant corn, we harvest corn. We plant pumpkin, we harvest pumpkin. You can't plant corn and harvest pumpkin. I can't make a mistake and expect just to feel like I'm on vacation in paradise.
I think it's important to know that there is no punishment. We know like the natural laws.
It's just consequences.
Exactly, it's just consequences. And there is like you have to establish what it is, right? Like,
The feeling of punishment comes because of the pain we feel. So we feel like we've been punished because of the pain, because it's unpleasant. But it's merely a consequence. And if we understand that, it helps with the whole rebellion thing. The whole God is against me. Why me? Why is this happening to me? Right? Again, going back to the source. Spirit's book, in question 922, Allan Kardec says, first he makes a statement and then he questions like he loves to do. Earthly happiness is relative to the position of each person, and what suffices for the happiness of one would be misfortune for another. So first let's understand this. What is he saying here? So he's stating, it's an affirmation. This is not a question. He's stating that earthly happiness is relative to the position of each person. Is this clear? Right? And what suffices, like what is enough for the happiness of one, so what is enough for me, would be misfortune for another. Not having a Michael Kors purse is okay with me, but for someone, it could be absolutely unbearable. Not having a nice car is enough for Will, but it could be death to Maud. Not having a big house is great with me because I don't have to clean it, but it could be death to Marcella because she's having another kid. Right? Okay, so that's what he's saying. So it's relative to the position of each person, and what is enough for their happiness could not be enough for someone else. So is that clear?
Yes.
And can we think of examples in our minds? Now he asks, is there, nevertheless, a common standard of happiness for everybody? What do you think? Do you think there is something that would make absolutely everybody happy? Is it possible to make everybody happy? Moa hates chocolate.
Yes.
Oh.
And cheese. But I'm from Earth.
We still question that sometimes. Just like me, I hate Coke. So a lot of people ask if I'm from Earth as well. So, do you think there is one common ground, one common standard of happiness for everybody?
Humility, humildade,
Humbleness.
humbleness, and less selfishness.
Okay, so see, I got answers yes, and I got answers no. So maybe we are thinking different things here, because all of my examples were material. And Priscilla is talking about virtues.
And I'm even thinking here, like, what do we mean by happiness? I think that's the common, like, what is true, the happiness that we're talking about here?
Yes, because we, little people, me included, we confuse passion with happiness. We confuse enthusiasm with happiness. We confuse like the feeling of smelling a new car with happiness. We confuse the feeling of getting a beautiful piece of jewelry with happiness. Is that quick feeling that lasts sometimes minutes, sometimes hours, sometimes days. Is that happiness or is it something else? That's what we need to ask ourselves. I'm not giving you the answer. It's just a reflection, okay? So let's see what the spirits answered. For material existence, it is the possession of all that is necessary. But because sometimes we are selfish and greedy, we misinterpret the meaning of necessary. Right? For some of us, I don't know, a Tesla is necessary. For some of us, as long as I can drive, it's good. Okay, so we give our own interpretation to necessary. So that's a reflection, that's an extremely personal reflection for each one of us of what is necessary and what isn't. And I am absolutely nobody to tell anybody what's the right answer, because it will depend on so many things for each person. So it's really a personal reflection.
So you're saying that
Yes.
the answer is yes? So it's no.
The answer is yes to what? If there's one thing that makes everybody happy?
Yeah.
Okay, hold on, because we haven't finished. So they say, for material existence is having what is necessary. So that one would, the yes or no would depend if, in your opinion, you have what you think is necessary for you. So this one, the answer is, it depends.
It depends, like, in my point of view, we have different, like, we're not a like, level of evolution,
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
That would say no, because we are all different.
That's why the answer for material things is it depends.
Yeah.
Right? I think everybody has watched documentaries like The Minimalist or whatever. Some people are happy living in a container that looks like a house. This, again, this is all relative to each person, their necessity, and how much virtue they have developed, for example, in terms of humbleness, of a lot of things. For example, one person who doesn't have kids, their needs will be completely different from a family with 3, 4, 5, or 10 kids. So again, this is why it depends. And we see everything. We see families that are never happy no matter what. And we see some families of very poor people who have 10 kids. They basically have where to sleep and enough food to eat, and they're still happy. So it depends. However, for the moral life, it is a good conscience and faith in the future. So actually, the second part is the key to the first part. Because if I have a good, clean conscience with my moral duties and faith in the future, feeling that I belong, if I have complete understanding that I'm here as an apprentice of life, that I am here to learn, to make mistakes and learn from my mistakes, if we are absolutely aware of all of this, we change this.
Oh, yes.
So if we only think about material, it depends. But for moral life, if we have a good, clean conscience in regards to our moral duties, our consciential duties, and we have faith in the future, faith in God and His plan for us, then that's happiness, no matter how much material things you have or don't have. Did that make sense?
Yes.
Yes? All right. So going back to the Gospel according Spiritism, now chapter 11, item 13, a protecting spirit, and the name of the item is faith and charity. The Spirit says, you would be right to affirm that humanity was intended to be happy in this world as long as this was sought not in material pleasures, but in goodness. Yes, did it make sense? So if we as human beings were looking for goodness as opposed to only material things, then we would be happy in this world. There would be happiness if material things did not come first, but goodness came first. The history of Christianity tells of martyrs going happily to their execution. And I think we've all read books about it and heard about it. And it's nothing to do with spiritism or anything. It's just historical records. Today, in your society, let's remember this is 160 years ago. Today, in your society, there is no longer a need for Christians to face the Holocaust of martyrdom, nor the sacrifice of lives, but only and exclusively the sacrifice of selfishness, pride, and vanity. You will triumph only if you're inspired by charity and sustained by faith. Right? 160 years ago, could it be more perfect for our time? So still 1,000,000% truth for us. So only and exclusively by the sacrifice of selfishness, pride, and vanity. That's all we have to sacrifice. We don't have to be eaten by lions. We don't have to be burned alive at stakes. We don't have to be crucified. The martyrs, they went happily to it. They sang. They couldn't wait to see Jesus. And I am super worried about how many pairs of shoes I have. I am worried about, my house not being the nicest looking in my neighborhood. I am worried about my kid's school fell 2 points in the ranking of the city this year. Those are circumstantial problems. I'm not saying they don't exist and they should be completely ignored, and we should all become St. Francis of Assisi's followers, sell everything we have, put on sandals and go pray. That's not what I'm saying. But again, our reflection is, how much is the necessary? What kinds of problems are circumstantial that I can solve easily? And what kinds of problems are existential? What kinds of problems require me to develop my virtues? What kinds of problems are inviting me to fulfill the divine laws? Okay? And again, very personal reflection. So, still from the same book, let's finish with a little saying that faith is like a fabric in a weaver's loom, num tear, with intricate interlaces that contains in itself the energy of many virtues. So faith is like a fabric with a lot of virtues interlocked, intertwined, right? When we develop these virtues through patient, perseverant, and continuing efforts, sorry, I'm missing an S there, continuing efforts, we strengthen ourselves. And this allows us to go towards the big fortress of the Creator's omnipresence, omnipotence, and omniscience. So when we develop the virtues, when we develop faith, when we are sustained sustained by faith, by not just the understanding, but the feeling, the real belief that we are God's creation, that He loves us, that we have a purpose here, then we will be within His fortress. Then we will be so strong that this whole learning process is going to make sense. It's not going to become easier in terms of, yay, I'm going to rock this, but it's going to become easier in terms of understanding the invitations life is throwing at us. What virtue am I being invited to develop in this situation or in that situation? How can I do better? How can I learn to do better next time? Okay? Any questions, any comments? All welcome. No? No? You guys are ready there?
We have nothing for
Oh, okay.
3 minutes, so you can go for a final prayer. And we will be back for the classes.
Okay, sounds good. Right on time. I can't believe it. I did it. Yeah. Okay. So, can you give us a nice song, DJ? So I invite everybody again to close our eyes. Dear Master Jesus, dear mentors of our house, we thank you for the opportunity to be here today. We thank you for supporting us as individuals and for supporting our beloved home here at FSS. We thank all of our spiritual friends who help bring the incarnated and the discarnate alike to learn, to reflect, to deeply think about our purpose, to deeply think and try to understand the importance and the influence of faith in our lives. We ask for the strength to help us develop this faith, to help us trust in ourselves, trust in life, and trust in the divine laws, so that we can feel we belong, we can learn from the challenges we face in life, and we can fulfill all the promises that we made to ourselves before we incarnated. Promises of self-improvement, promises of self-forgiveness, self-love, so that we can evolve as individuals and help make a better collective for our planet. Thank you to all the friends who are here today. We ask for Jesus' protection for all the friends who couldn't come, for all the disconnected friends here with us. May we go at peace, and may we have a productive and enlightened week, full of reflections, full of self-love, self-reflection. So be